Warren and Pam Adams of Gilchrist, Texas, lost their home during a hurricane in 2005. After the devastation of losing nearly all of their belongings that they had once cherished, they decided that when they started from scratch, they would never allow this sort of thing to happen again. So they hired an engineer to build them a house that would withstand the next storm that would inevitably come their way. And sure enough, in the late summer of 2008, another hurricane was headed for Texas. It devastated the parts of the state with its 14-foot tall walls of water that devoured homes and churches and businesses and people's dreams. Once it was safe to return back to their homes, Warren and Pam drove down their once familiar street, and it was all unrecognizable. And yet, coming down the stretch of road that they had traveled hundreds of times, the only thing that stood out was an impressive yellow house that sat atop a 19-foot tall cement foundation amongst the rubble of the Gulf Coast. With the 140-mile-per-hour winds that hit this small island, this little yellow house appeared untouched from a distance. All because the foundation was solid. It was built to withstand the storms that were guaranteed to come. You see, where and how we dig down deep, the strength or weakness of our foundations, all determines how we make it through the storm. We will either crumble beneath the weight, or we'll stand tall and be immovable. In Matthew 7, we read these words, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they slammed against that house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew, and they slammed against that house, and it fell, and a great fall it was." You see, foundations are so important because when our foundations are strong, we can place trust in the things around us. There are so many things in our lives that we place our trust in. We trust doctors with our medical care to prescribe the right medications or to be able to know what's going on in our body when we explain our pains. We put trust in a chair every time we sit in it, knowing that the chair is going to hold us up. We trust schools with our children's education and our children's safety. But at any time our doctors show their humanity, or maybe even provide an incorrect diagnosis, that foundation of trust shows some cracks. When the chair gives out from underneath us, when a close friend betrays us, those foundations of trust start to give way. You see, much like the scripture from Matthew, Jesus says we can try to create beneath us these other foundations, but attempting to do it on our own is just as futile as expecting foundations of sand to uphold us. Just what if we decided to invest time and energy into our relationship with Jesus, strengthening a foundation of faith in Him, knowing that He will never fail? We need to let our relationship with Jesus transform who we are, everything we do, everything we think, everything we desire, everything we say, every decision we make, every interaction we have. Every other thing, every other person will eventually fail us. But Warren and Pam hired an engineer to totally rebuild their home, knowing that the storm was coming. They knew that the only way that their home was going to survive another hurricane was if they started way down deep with a solid foundation. You see, the way we make it through the rain and the storm of life is by having a solid foundation that's built upon Jesus. So where do we start? We go right to the source. We desire to know more about Jesus, who He is to you, what He's doing in your life, how He's working. You accept Jesus as your Lord. You live in relationship with Him, and that foundation will strengthen as your faith grows. Living life with Jesus does not mean that life will get easier. That can't be further from the truth. Let's be real. It's the parts of our world that are so prone to hurricanes and storms that need the strongest foundations. Well, it's the same for us. Storms, disaster, heartbreak, difficulty, it will all seek us out. But day by day, we can be growing stronger in our relationship with Jesus. And those things that seek to wreck us and destroy us will have smaller and smaller impact.